Today we're here with Mick from Premier Buildings in Rimby. He's been a client of ours for the last 2 years. We're going to talk about things like why having a third-party perspective on your business is very important. We're going to talk about operational numbers versus taxation numbers, why you want to look at everything on the micro level and not just assume the macro is going to make sense. We're going to talk about how to buy back your time if you're stressed out so you can actually break away from your business. And we're also going to discuss why it's incredibly important to understand what motivates your staff so that means they want to play the game and be competitive and help you win. I'm Dennis.
And I'm Greg.
And this is the More Profit, Less Stress podcast,
where we provide the tools for more profit and less stress in your business now so you can turn into a valuable asset later. Welcome to the More Profit, Less Stress podcast. I'm Greg Forzani here with Dennis Taekema, and our guest today is Mick Toews from Premier Portable Buildings in Rimby, Alberta, Canada. Welcome, Mick.
Good to be here.
Thank you. Now, before we get into it, if you can maybe give us a little bit of an idea of what is Premier Portable Buildings? What do you guys sell? What geographic area do you cover? Like, can you ship to, provide, etc.?
Yeah, so we build portable buildings, obviously. Some guys call them mini barns. We build little cabins.
Cool.
Build them from 6 by 10 up to 16 by 50 feet long. And we service all of Alberta, and we sell a lot into southeastern BC, as well as into about halfway into Saskatchewan. So we have a big area we cover. We started in 2018, and we are now, I think, we're producing about 900 buildings a year, 900 to 1,000.
Wow.
So that's kind of what we're doing. That's kind of our business.
Okay, sorry, and I got to ask this because I find these little buildings kind of cool. So are you doing like just sheds, or do you do like what people would think are little tiny homes or little guest houses or little barns, or like what are the different kind of buildings you do?
So yeah, we have lots of our buildings have little decks on them, so lots of people are using them for little cabins. We do have people living in them year round, but
Right.
We only sell unfinished buildings. We do not finish them out. So we do provide spray foam insulation. We upgrade windows, doors. We do a lot of upgrades. But as far as finishing them out, we let the customer do that. So far we can't keep up with demand yet. So we'll just keep letting the customers do that for now. For sure.
So a customer comes to you with a request for a size, a reason, a purpose. You build the shell, you insulate the shell, you put in the windows as requested, the doors as requested, you drop them off at their place, and they go, okay, now we're going to throw in the drywall, we're going to throw in the plumbing, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and your hands are off completely at that point. Whatever they want to do with it once it lands is up to them. They could store their lawnmower, or they could store their mother-in-law. It all depends on how they want to set it up.
Yep. Use it for a barn if they want to store the chickens in there. Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
and that's probably why the demand is so high, because at the end of the day, are you guys restricted by your shipping limitations as far as width goes? Because you said it's like
16 feet is the widest. Yeah, 16 feet is the widest that we haul. And we already, at 14 to 16 wides, we have to provide pilot cars to haul them down the road. It does add a lot of extra cost when we're shipping wider buildings, of course. But we're shipping wide buildings 9 hours north of here and that many hours, well, maybe not that many hours south, but we still haul them out even if they're big buildings.
So from the customer's perspective, I'm assuming that means that you shipping a building, so you're talking pre-built now, right? Like it's built.
They're all pre-built. We sell nothing else but pre-built and completely finished on the outside. Yes.
So then obviously it means that it's still more affordable for the customer to have that done than to build from scratch on site, right? Like to build an actual 2x4, whatever, plywood, et cetera, or whatever they're doing.
So it's interesting. We sell to a lot of contractors even that are building homes, and the customer wants a shed in the backyard. And we have many times a contractor comes in here and tells us, well, we can't touch your prices, so we're just going to buy from you. And because we're part of the Premier Group, I mean, we have good purchasing powers and they're able to buy lumber in, and we're able to build them very efficiently on site here. We try to build 4 to 5 a day, and then that's kind of the way it works.
Cool. I saw videos of a dog rescue where they had, I want to say like 4 to 6 of those little buildings in the actual like compound. They were cool little buildings. They were set up and they had themes. One was a ranch and one was like a little church and one was like a little school, and they had names, and it's really cool.
Yeah. So our
Interesting.
biggest customer that we've sold to at one sale was 40 buildings. So
Oh, wow.
Crap.
yeah, so we have people buy
Wow.
quite a few at a time sometimes. I wish it was a regular customer, but like a regular customer would just buy one. But we have many repeat customers as well. But it is interesting. Yeah, you talk about those little buildings like that. Yeah, we've had.
How many people did that freak out on the highway when you see trucks going by with 40 buildings back to back to back to back to back? People are like, what's going on? What do they know that I don't know?
They didn't all go out the same day.
It's a
Oh,
convoy of buildings.
Almost
Yeah.
should have waited for it all to go out the same day. That would have been hilarious.
Yeah,
I mean, the
yeah.
logistics would have been a nightmare, but
You'd have made the
comedy factor-
news, that's for sure. Probably all over the world, you'd have made the news.
You
Yeah.
put a sign on the side of the truck that say mini nuclear shelters just to see what
Yeah.
people say as you're driving
Yeah,
by.
we have an interesting customer that bought quite a few sheds from us, Edison Motors, and you'll see them online a lot, and they've done some really good advertising for us, but they are using them for their employees. They've probably bought close to 20 from us, and it's they've done a document on us here in the shop here, and it's
Oh, so like on-site portable housing for their employees. They buy the shells from you insulated,
Yep.
then they finish them off and they become, so like oil field camps have that with like oil camp trailers. So you're kind of replacing that housing trailer type idea with just these buildings instead.
that's right.
Or even like farms or vineyards or things like that you could do. Because that's a big struggle for them, right? They're looking for how do they house people.
Yeah, so
That's
our
cool.
customer that bought 40, they're buildings that they're using on feedlots for their micronutrients, and it's interesting. Like we service a wide variety of customers,
Wow.
right from the cabin by the lake to the farmer to the commercial.
If it's portable and you need a building, call Mick.
We're gonna get it done.
Basically.
You could put one on a pontoon and call it a houseboat.
Probably could.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So how'd you get into that? I wouldn't think a lot of people would ever think about getting into portable buildings as a business. Most people think construction, they think houses, garage, barns, and pole buildings. Nobody really thinks about garden sheds. They're like, most common attitude I've gotten in my construction background is the homeowner can build it themselves. Why worry about it?
Yeah. So I used to sell fertilizer for a living, and I was always doing something on the side and building the odd garden shed and putting them on the side of the highway. And then I quit doing that and started construction full time. I got into big building like shops and all that kind of stuff, and kind of forgot about the garden shed business until one night it's kind of an interesting thing how we hooked up with Premier. I was looking on my iPad and I seen Premier portable buildings pop up on there. There was a comment section, and I don't even know why I did it, but I just wrote in there, hey, they were looking for a builder in Central Alberta. I didn't even know that they did or what.
It was even a thing.
And within a week, I got a call and asked if he could come down and visit me. I said, sure. I says, I'm pretty busy, but I got a little time for you. We met at Tim Hortons downtown Red Deer, and he said his name was Sam. I says, well, yeah, I got some questions for you. Yeah, it's just kind of interesting. I'm not really looking for something, but I'm really interested in it. And yeah, he says, well, phone around, find out from some other shops what they're thinking of. And then I phone around, find out. I says, like, who's Sam? Well, he's the owner. Or half owner. Sam never told me that he was half owner of the company. And so that was our first meeting. And then from there on, that was about June and February 1st, we actually started building for Premier in 2018. And that's how we started going. Yeah. And we rented the shop to start with. And we ended up purchasing the same shop we started renting. And we've added on to the shop numerous times.
So what was that journey like for you from startup to where you are now? Because like,
yeah.
That's a huge progression to go from 0 buildings to like 900 buildings a year and unable to keep up.
Yeah, it was tough. But the first couple of years, I wondered how in the world we're going to keep going. And then things started working. We started figuring out how to run efficiently and how to make money with this. And then I guess we could move into how I got involved with you, Greg. It was kind of a bit of a journey too, because Greg Clausen there, he was the one that recommended you, and he kept looking at me and he says, Mick, he says, man, you guys, you're always so flat out, just going flat out busy, running around, and you look like you're pretty stressed out a lot of times. And he says, I got a guy for you that you should talk to. And it was for Dennis. So anyway, so visited with Dennis. First, I told Dennis, I says, I don't want anything to do with financing. I said, I just want you to time management for us. That's it. And Dennis looked at me and he says, He says,
right.
Yeah. He says, I can't help you without numbers, he said. early. I said, I can't help you time management without knowing your numbers. So I was like, made me think a little bit. And then I was like, yeah, let's do it. And that's where we are today.
And if I remember the conversation initially when we first started going through the numbers, I don't know if this is fair to say, but when my interpretation of it was kind of, okay, we'll do this because we have to, not because we want to. And it was kind of like, I'll do it for a little bit. We'll try it out. We'll see where this goes. But your focus really was on getting your freedom back. And then I think after what 30 days of diving into it, you kind of changed your mind on that? Or was that a little bit further down the road where you're like,
I think it was a little
way more?
I think it was a little further because I was stressed out punching numbers steady there for Dennis, and he was pretty hard on me the first little bit. No, he was good, but he needed to know those numbers. And now I understand why he needed to know those numbers so that we could eventually get that freedom. But that freedom doesn't come just overnight. So I mean, it comes with knowing our numbers, really.
Well, we had to know how to buy your freedom back. So without knowing those numbers, like, how do we actually buy the freedom that you're looking for? Because it's really the only way to get it is you pay for it by paying somebody else to do it. And can you still be profitable after paying somebody else to do it? I think was our conversation.
And that's where we went with that whole thing. And then eventually we hired a shop manager, and now we've gone and hired a secretary, which we're working our way through that right now. And all because we knew our numbers. That's why.
I think what you just said is actually a really powerful point, which was, if I'm hearing right, you said to Dennis, no, I just need help with time management. I got the number thing dialed. I know what I'm doing. I think you just explained a large portion of business owners. Like, they're freaking out, they're busy, things aren't working out, whatever. They maybe feel like they know their numbers well enough, and it's something else going on, like it's time management or hiring or staff, staff or customers or vendors. Those games may be going on in their head, or those stories, and they don't think it's the numbers. What would you say to somebody who's thinking that right now themselves? It's in that situation you were in when you started with Dennis. Like, what message would you give them to help them understand, like, hey, wait a minute, get out of your own way?
That's a good question. Honestly, when I started with Dennis, I didn't know that it was actually numbers that was getting in my way. Like, I mean, I thought it was just, I wasn't smart enough to actually be efficient with my time. And now I'm also understanding that, hey, I actually need to know my numbers so that I can hire extra people to help me, because I cannot literally do this all on my own. Like, I can't physically get all this work done that I thought I could, and not knowing my numbers, I didn't know if I could hire somebody. And now we know, yes, we can. Like, I sat down with Dennis and we decided, yes, now's the time to hire a secretary, So what would I tell people? You got to know your numbers first. I mean, really, you do. Yeah, you do.
Well, let's keep diving down that one a little bit, because you work for a really fantastic company on the Premier side. They've got a lot of other people that build for them as well. They've got their numbers to hit. And when we started separating out what they need to hit versus what you need to hit, we started looking at your business as your business, not your business as their business, was one of the key differences that we made. We stopped looking at the tax side of the numbers and started looking at only the operational side of the numbers. Like, let's put everything in here, not just what goes in the tax return, but let's put everything in here in its proper categories to start breaking things out. And I think if I remember correctly, when we first did that, we weren't very happy with how the business was actually doing, because it wasn't doing as well as we had assumed that it was doing.
That's right. And we had some months where we were really losing money, and I was stressing out. And then some months we were really making good money, and then I was like having a good time. And Dennis had helped me through all that. And I didn't know that though before we started all this. And we started this for time management. And I didn't really know what was stressing me out, but it was like, it's like, we're having a wild month here. Like, and Dennis would just say, Mick, he says, that's business. Like, don't get too excited here. Like, just settle in, and we're going to get how your business flows. And so he's helped me through a lot of that. A big thing for me, I just like Dennis. I tell him my troubles now, and it gives me a lot of confidence. It can be the smallest things. You know what he told me one day here not too long ago? I was telling him some of the troubles we're having. He told me, he says, you need to have a board game with your wife tonight.
Just go take some time for yourselves. Step away for a little bit. Reconnect.
Reconnect. That was what he was trying to get to.
And I don't think you ever did.
So sorry. That's hilarious. That's awesome. I want to go back to something else he said that made me think of something. So it sounds to me like part of the time management issue might have been how much time you were spending stressing out about a bad month financially, whatever it might have been, right? So it sounds like maybe you've been able to gain some time back because you're spending less time stressing out about numbers or money in the bank or being able to pay bills. And now that's time gained back, right? And would that be true?
Oh, certainly, yeah. And I mean, I think just looking at those numbers steady, like I've mentioned this before, where we keep looking at these numbers, and I mentioned about our WCB thing where we saved ourselves $50,000 just because of looking at those numbers. All of a sudden, I can start flattening out these months. Like, it doesn't seem like we're having roller coaster months like we were before. And I don't know even the answer to that, but it just seems like it's just flattened out a lot. And that to me in itself is a lot more relaxing.
Well, I think what it comes down to, where before everything in life is reactionary spending, right? The money's coming in, you get the bill, you pay the bill. The money comes in, you get the bill, you pay the bill. The money comes in, you can't pay the bill, you stress about the bill, you wait for the money to come in, and then you pay off the bills. It's the way most people live their life. But when we started breaking things down, it would start out about, first of all, where's the revenue coming from? First of all. Number two, is that revenue that's coming in actually landing in a way that's profitable, or is it just moving through so fast it's just a number that's washing through? And then once we stabilized where the income was coming from, figured out what was making money, what wasn't making money, we were then able to look at the expenses and start asking questions like, well, why is this number so high? Why am I spending so much here? And you have a way more proactive approach versus a reactive approach when you were doing it and you were stressed out about time.
Yeah. So we took our business and we basically broke it down into 3 businesses. Like, we got 3 income in this business, 3 spots where we make income on, and it's and we focused on each of those, how we could make more money in them. And it's kind of interesting how we got here.
Well, I wouldn't consider anything we did to be like that Hail Mary, over the fence, home run type activity. I think everything we did was look at small changes. We looked at, as we broke out your divisions, it was, what's going on in this division? Why are the margins what they are? How can we tweak some more stuff out of this? And what happens to our business if we remove this division? What does the business look like? We started actually playing the game of like stacking and flipping and removing and checking, and all of it, I think, brought a lot more clarity to where the money was actually coming from. And then I don't recall that experience being all that much fun.
No.
Right?
Especially not since I'm not built to sit behind the desk.
Okay, wait. Okay, so that's a funny comment. However, a lot of business owners probably feel that way, right? They're not built to sit behind a desk. Like, they should be out doing the trade or cooking the meals, like in the restaurant or whatever it happens to be. How did you get past that? And has that paid off? Like, has that been worth doing? And now how do you view that?
Like, I don't know that we're exactly where I want to be yet with that part. Our secretary we hired in October, which is taking a big load off of us already. But because it's such a big learning thing, and because I've never hired a secretary before, it's been a challenge. And Dennis has been helping me through that. And we worked on something yesterday. I'm not quite where I want to be yet, but we're working at it. It doesn't happen overnight with that part. I can see an end in sight, though. That's the deal.
How big a difference is it making to your company that you're getting out of the yard and doing a little bit behind the desk and diving into the numbers? What would you say to other business owners who are just, I let my bookkeeper look at the numbers? How healthy is your business because you're diving into the numbers versus how healthy would it be if you just stayed in the yard, did what you enjoyed doing every day, and let your bookkeeper deal with it?
Yeah, no. You have to know your numbers. Even though I don't enjoy it behind the desk here, I really enjoy looking at those numbers. I don't enjoy punching those numbers in, though. So, and like I've told you before, like, looking at those numbers, we can actually recognize what's going on, and hey, you know what, we're screwing up here, and we need to fix some problems. But you were talking about what difference it makes, and I asked you about our employees. It's interesting to me because I talk a lot about Dennis at the coffee table, and Dennis has come out and give us a talk to all the employees. And one of the things we've actually implemented is our numbers we put on our board in our coffee room. We put how many dollars we've built for that week, and getting our employees involved with the numbers a bit. And those boys are asking for that number if it's not put up there at the beginning of the week. And that's cool. To me, like, what differences it makes a difference to our employees as well.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And that's like, think pro sports, right? Same thing. You want players on the team that want those numbers so they can perform better. And you want people that are bought into wanting to even do that. So that's really cool.
Because our employees are paid on a percentage basis of what they comes out of the shop, it is an important number to them.
Well, you've made it important to them.
Yep.
Yeah, love it.
Well,
That's cool.
it keeps them engaged, right? They understand what they're doing and how it makes an impact. I think when you and I were talking about it, for some of these guys, we had to break their percentage down into an hourly rate because some of them didn't feel like they were making enough. So when we could take their percentage, break it down to an hourly rate, we could show them how they can increase their own paycheck without having to, like, they were actually fully understanding now how they can make more money, how they can participate. And I think one of my favorites is your top producer whose attitude is, I don't want to take 2 steps if I can take 1. Like, he's really dialed in the efficiency, and his productions reflected that attitude because he knows what he can impact.
And so Dennis has actually built us a special spreadsheet just for our business for doing payroll and to figure all those numbers out for us. And it's kind of interesting. We can take how many dollars that employee has built, and it actually drops it over into the other sheet there, and it figures it all out how much I owe them for that period.
For pay and structure.
Yeah. So we've got all that in there, so it's pretty neat.
We're talking a lot of surface level stuff only because it's hard to dig into specifics. But if you could think back, and it's tough to because we've been doing this for a while, when we started ripping out some of your numbers, what were some of your biggest aha moments? Like, you're like, holy crap, this is this, that's that. Because I know we made a lot of changes since then, but changes only come after awareness. So what were some of the things that surprised you that you weren't expecting?
Good question. Well, that WCB one.
Yep.
That was a big one.
Because we also looked at margins on your extras. We looked at
margins on the extras was another one that we weren't making maybe enough on our extras. We needed to jack the prices up on them, and which you helped us out. You got a sheet going there for us on our margins.
So just for clarity on that, meaning some products your margin was this percent, and
we
other
were all
products
over the board.
your margin, right? So it was understanding that every product had a different margin percent, and what blend or mix of those different products did you need to have to make the average, the margin you need to be profitable? That's what you dove into. And
Exactly. Just like, for instance, we were selling 2x3 windows versus 3x3 windows, and our margins on 3x3 windows, we were making nothing, and we were making a lot on 2x3s, but we didn't even know that until Dennis came along.
It was just revenue going through. And I think that was part of the illusion too, is you took a look at your financials and your revenue is a very high number. So it felt like you were making money. And then as we broke out the divisions, we looked at margins, we examined that. We looked at what do we have to do in areas where we can't increase prices. Are there ways that we can put the margin back into something that's losing money? Then we had the conversation with the staff and with the team. And I'm not even sure how long it took us, but like less than 6 months before that bottom line profit number really started to change. And then you made the comment to me the other day saying it used to be that the customer would make Premier Sheds money, your business money, but this program allowed you personally to take money and make money. Yeah. So like, before, it's kind of like you're spending all your time working for the business. Now the business has made the shift where it's starting to pay you back for all that time you put in. And I think your comment was, I think you always refer to it as cornflakes money. How did you put that?
Well, I always say that those spreadsheets that you have, they're what we have left over to eat. Like we work with accountants, like we got dividends and all their accountant lingo and all that kind of stuff. But when I look at these numbers, that is what I got left to buy cornflakes with, like you said, yes.
And you were telling me before you stress out about small decisions, but now I think you said you're doing renovations, you're doing kind of stuff personally that you wanted to do for a while, and you're not stressed about the money.
Well, and we know where we're going. And so we did an upgrade for the boys in the shop here, just finished yesterday. And we put automatic door openers in for everybody. They're all happy now because now all of a sudden our yard guy doesn't have to jump out of his machine, and our builders don't have to run to the door to open. I mean, and those are the kinds of things that we can do now, and it speeds up our process. So, and we figured out we could actually afford to do it. So,
and we can track little things. I think that's again why I like your top producer, because I never really understood his whole no wasted steps things until I went to Vegas and I was walking like 20,000 steps a day. And then when I realized that 20,000 steps is like 20 kilometers, you start realizing how fast every step adds up to a kilometer. Just something as simple as your door closes and being able to invest in that saves people the energy of having to walk unnecessary steps where they can just do more what's productive. But without having the numbers to know what we could do, there's no way to systemize that. It's always just a maybe next year kind of mentality.
So you talk about our top builder and how fussy he is with his steps. This is how fussy he is. We put building packages together with him for each of the builders, for each building. And he's so fussy that he demands that the hinges on the doors are stacked with the hinge up. And the reason
Nice.
being is because it won't hook on when he pulls it out, and it's going to save him time. That's how he lives his life in our shop in our
good.
boat.
Well, and for the longest time, we wanted him to train. So like, this is for anybody listening to this. Training costs money. Like the training isn't free, because every time you put somebody to train, you're paying almost double for that hour to get let for the same amount of production. So this guy never wanted to train. And so we were able to look at your numbers, rip things down and say, okay, I could actually afford to pay this guy to train on top of what he's currently doing so he doesn't lose any income. When we were able to present that, suddenly he became interested in training. And what we found phenomenal is that we never had to spend that money, because he was actually more efficient or got more done training somebody else, which almost never happens, unless I'm misunderstanding that.
Well, it normally is. If we do train a builder, the guy doing the training, usually it slows him down a lot. And so when we asked him to train this last guy that we hired on, he says, "What's in it for me?" Well, I says, I'll keep paying you a percentage just like I am now. I won't split it between you. And it ended up being that they pumped out a lot more buildings, which is not normal for training. Usually they pump out less buildings, but he pumped out more buildings, so he was making actually more money. And so it was pretty interesting.
But that's cool, right?
Yep.
It's a culture and an attitude of him trying to figure out, how do I make this a good thing versus I got to train and show this guy how to do things twice. Like that's a culture, that's an attitude, and it is achievable. You've just proven it's achievable for anybody.
And so
cool.
He's on his own now, and it's interesting to see somebody trained by him, how he's rolling along.
How's he producing?
Yeah, so we've been at it now November, and which it's still tough for those guys. Normally, it's a 6 month to 8 month till they're up to their potential, and it can be even up to a year and a half. I've seen it, but I think he's going to be up there by spring. I'm pretty sure. Maybe even we'll see what his January numbers do, but December wasn't a full month, so it's hard to tell. And then November was his first month, but we definitely are doing a lot better than we have in the past, for sure.
So that's another stress reliever, right? Because when we were looking at it originally, it's I don't have the money to pay somebody else to train somebody. I can't afford to lose anything because I'm already struggling.
Yeah.
To make
and sometimes we just throw them in a bay by themselves and tell them to learn. And that's tough.
Well, yeah, but that's the way most people go about it. But looking at the numbers, we're able to establish a budget for training if it came to it. And we never had to dig into that budget for training in that situation, did we?
Yeah.
So it gave us some peace of mind. And I think the next thing that we're really working on is you've been running on high octane fuel for such a long time that sometimes taking a step back and time off is a bit stressful. But we've really been trying to pull you away from that too.
Yeah, that's tough for me. I did go to Edmonton yesterday though, Dennis.
Oh, you didn't even call me.
Guess what? It was for a business trip though.
I like coffee. I like business trips.
Yeah.
All right. So there was some of the other things that I think when we picked up on things too, one of the areas what I found interesting was the value relationship you have with Premier is that they give you such an incredible ability to buy materials at a discount that makes sense for you. Like they've been a great vendor for you that way. You've been able to put yourself in a situation where we haven't had to compete on market pricing at all to actually still be able to sell things. We've been able to still come in on a lot of things below market price, and your business hasn't suffered for it because you've been able to figure out how to control the money that comes in. Is that fair?
Yeah, no, I like partnering with Premier. It's been a fantastic journey for sure.
So what's life like now for you then? So before you were kind of stressed out, not sure how to pay bills. I noticed a difference in you in your body language, even sitting across from you. You're not nearly as high strung as you used to be. Now you're a lot more relaxed and taking things in stride. And then I think we've been at this for what, maybe 2 years?
It's going to be 2 years. Yeah, coming right up.
We're coming up on 2 years. In that time frame, what does your life look like now compared to what it looked like then?
Yeah. No,
and maybe clarify, answer that two ways. What's your life look like business wise now compared to then? But then what's your life look like personal wise now compared to then? Because it's probably affected you personally too.
Yeah. How does the guy explain that? Yeah, for sure. I do know that, like Dennis said, I'm a lot more relaxed. Like I get that. And Rosie and me, my wife, Rosie, she was out here being our secretary. She was working hard, and it has now giving us time to spend time with our family more. And even over this Christmas time now, this just over the last 2 weeks, I've always been out here just working, trying to pump out a few more buildings, and the guys will be on holidays. And this year I says, you know what, guys? I says, I'm taking 2 weeks off this year.
Nice.
Even though I live 50 feet from the shop, I still took 2 weeks off. And I did. And it was good. We were busy, but we were doing other things than building sheds. So, yeah.
How'd the guys take it? And everything fell apart, right? You came back and the whole thing was just destroyed.
Yeah. Just like you said all the time, like I leave for a week or whatever, and you say, so did the business fall apart when you're gone? No, it didn't. It kept going.
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that your guys care about the result. You have a really good group of guys that were there when I went down to talk with them. I think once we started giving them the numbers to hit every month, they felt like there was something that they could control. They weren't just a cog. They know how they can make more money, and they know how them making more money helps the business make more money. And we've been able to kind of pull the whole team together.
Oh, I got an awesome crew working for me. Honestly, I say Dennis is helping us a lot. I couldn't do it without my crew. It's just they're what does it for me. Yep.
So what would you say to somebody out there who goes, yeah, well, you just can't find good people and no one wants to work?
Right.
It's hard to find good people, but when you find them, keep them. And that's what Dennis tells me. He says, what are we going to do to keep him? Like, how are we going to keep this guy? When they start wondering what they're going to, because we do have people that want to move on.
Mm-hmm. And what I found to be true is that the more you involve the employee in how the business works, the less likely they are to walk away or leave, because they understand that they actually have a purpose and a reason to be there. And when I came out there, it was a conversation around how does a business operationally, how do the numbers work? And it seemed like it brought a lot of aha moments to the guys as to kind of how every decision they make has an impact on how much money the business makes, which I wonder if that's why they're excited to see their numbers every week on the wall too.
And that could be. As far as the builders go, I think they like to see the numbers on where they're at, because they know their number on an individual basis, and they, okay, so where am I at against the other guys? Because it gets to be quite competitive out there, to the point where I've got to sometimes step in and say, hey guys, like, we don't want you burning out. Yeah, because we've had a few burnouts here, and they're not fun. Yeah. They're not fun.
I think you're right. There's probably two things to Dennis's question. Is one, what you just said, Mick, people are competitively natured, right? Generally speaking. So that kicks in. But then the other thing is, I think most people, especially if you hire the right person, they actually do want to feel like they're contributing to whatever it is they're doing. Like whether it's work or family life or with their friends or whatever it happens to be. People I think deep down want to be part of the win and contribute and be part of the reason why the win was there, and describe the win how you want. It could be anything in life. Yeah, it sounds like you've built a culture or hired the right people and you're developing them where they want to be part of that. And they're probably also compensated for it, but deep down people want to be part of that. They want to contribute.
So it's interesting, like you talk about that, like everybody's different. Every employee is different. And how do we find that? Some guys are driven by money. Some guys are driven by, and because we're paying on a percentage basis, like, how do we find, are they competitive? Our builders are competitive. They're a different bunch. We're out of 14 employees. 5 of the guys do the building, and or maybe I think there's 6 actually, but we have many other places, like we have like roofers, we got yard boys, we got truss builders, we got window frame builders. And so some guys are driven by money, so they want to pump out the buildings. I got one guy here that's interesting. He's been here from almost day one, and I could never figure out what it was that drove him until not that long ago. Maybe like we've been at it 8 years almost. 1st of February is 8 years. And he's been here almost the whole time. And it is within the last year we found out what it was. We have a job for him that he does, and he can go home early if he wants, if he gets his job done. And that is what drives him. It's not money. It's that if I get this done by 3 o'clock, I can go home, and he gets the same paycheck.
Makes sense.
because it's a percentage basis. So.
Right.
So it's not, everybody's not driven by money, and some guys are driven by competitions, or some guys, hey, I want to go home early, and that's what is going to get me the job done early quick, is because I get to go home when I'm done.
So the moral of the story there is, if you're a leader, find out what drives each team member, why they're there, and manage it. So it's a win-win. It's got to be a win for the company too.
That's right.
But find the win for them and manage it that way. That's great. Very insightful.
I think one of the things you talked about as a valuable point, you said that the numbers your accountant puts together are for the business. The numbers that you look at operationally are for you. They let you make the decisions on how they go. And I think too many people confuse the fact that the two seem to be the same things. Now, for those listening, I'm not talking about keeping two sets of books. It's not legal. What I'm talking about is you can have the same set of books broken out different ways to understand the numbers differently. Because you and I have had conversations too where we sat down with the numbers and we sat down with a gentleman to look at them with us, and he went, well, that number shouldn't be in your profit and loss because that doesn't count for taxes, and that number shouldn't be in your numbers because that doesn't count for taxes, and that number shouldn't be in there because that doesn't count for taxes. And our comment back was, I get what you're saying. Those numbers aren't tax deductible numbers. They don't really count for the business, but I have to make those numbers. I got to make those payments. I got to make that work or the business doesn't survive. And it was a difference in perspective. So like his argument was, no, your business is profitable. Just remove this stuff. Our comment back was, sure, it's profitable tax-wise, but it's not operationally profitable unless I keep that stuff in. And so we had to relook at how to handle the numbers with all of that stuff in there.
Absolutely. Yeah, I remember those conversations.
They were trying to tell us like, yeah, you can't put in operational loan payments as being a number for your P&L because it doesn't matter. You pay tax on it as profit, but I got to make the payments or I'm not going to make a profit. So our goal with you was to become profitable after all that was said and done. And we're well on our way to that now. I just think most people don't understand the difference.
So it sounds like, to simplify this for the listener, it's have a section underneath your profit that's, I got these loan payments or whatever it happens to be, whatever money you borrowed, you got to repay, or shareholders loans, or even possibly even look at sort of depreciation like that. But what money's going out with after tax dollars, and can the profit afford to pay those? Just for clarity for those who are listening.
And that's one of the things we dove into was, okay, well, where's the money actually going and why is it going into that value? And can I be profitable with that money going out? That's the operational side of things, I think, Mick and I, that you and I were talking about, versus the tax side of things where they ignore all of that. And so you get your tax profit and loss back and the guy says, no, you made a ton of money. You're good to go pay tax. But on the operational side, you're looking at it going, I get it, but where does the money come from to pay the tax? Because I've got nothing left because it all went somewhere. And as we figured all of that out, it became a whole lot less stressful because we know where the money's going.
That dives into a whole nother conversation about, Dennis, how many times we bump into a company when they start with us where they've gone and committed to loans, especially at high interest rates. And I think we did a podcast on this, but without doing an exercise like you're talking about, you and Mick did, if they don't do that exercise before they agree to the loan, then they find out later they can't even afford to pay back the loans. Like the business isn't generating enough profit to pay back the commitment. So that's an unbelievably important subject and exercise to do even before considering borrowing money for anybody out there.
Well, it's more than that though, because maybe I can run the numbers and I can make the loan payment. Unfortunately, most governments that run your taxes don't look at loan payments as anything other than profit. So I have to not only make my loan payment, but I'm going to get taxed on all my loan payments. So I got to have money left over after making my loan payments to pay the tax I made to make the loan payments. So that's where we were coming from. It's how do I analyze this thing? So not only am I profitable when I make my loan payments back, but I'm also profitable to pay the tax I got to pay on paying my loan payments back. And that's where we ended up with that separation of communication with the other guy reviewing the numbers, because their attitude was like, well, you just pull that out and you're fine. But it wasn't true. And that's one of the reasons why I think we were struggling stress-wise so much in the numbers. It's, yeah, you're saying I'm making money. The government's saying I'm making money, but my bank account's empty and I've got no money for cornflakes.
Exactly.
And now we've got money for cornflakes, and we've got money for the government, and we've got money to pay the loans back by simply changing the perspective of how we look at those numbers.
Well, that's right.
Which then allows us to take some of that extra cash and buy back your time by hiring the secretary and going through those paces and going through those learning phases and those growth things. But you weren't even considering hiring a secretary at all before, because I'm barely making my payments now. How am I supposed to afford somebody that feels like just an expense with no real gain?
Yeah, and it took us a while to get there.
Mm-hmm.
Like it doesn't happen overnight, but then one day it was like we were having that conversation. I think Dennis says, I think it's time you get a secretary now.
It's funny you bring up the time thing, because business has been in process for 8 years, right? Mm-hmm. I think within the first 12 months of doing this, the money had already started to turn around. We had figured out where the money was coming from, and we'd fixed the holes within 12 months. Now, what's 12 months on 8 years? That's 1/8 of the time. That's a very short period of time to figure that out. And now we're into year 2, where it's more like, how do we do incremental changes, small little base hits, small little wins, and all of that. Now it's not taking a whole lot of time in perspective of the calendar. It just feels like it because we're putting effort in, but the whole turnaround didn't take that long.
No, I don't think it even took 12 months, Dennis. Like, really, I think it was quicker than that. But I mean, it's a long process, but like to know where that money is going, like, took less time than that. And then we had to do some switching around so that we could, hey, now we're profitable enough to actually hire some extra help. And yeah, so that part takes time, but to actually know where that money was going, it happened probably in 8 months.
Now, if I remember, you don't really leave your numbers at all anymore for a guy that never really wanted to look at them.
Yeah. I love sitting down looking at numbers. What I hate doing is punching them in.
But you can hire people to put the numbers in,
And
right?
that's what we're doing now. That's
So for the listener, a business can hire somebody to put the numbers in, but make sure, I think the point here is that you, the owner, needs to make sure that you're controlling how and where the numbers are being put in and when they're being put in, all that kind of stuff, like maybe accrual versus cash accounting, those kind of conversations. If you control all that and set it up the way you like, then to your point, you don't need to be the one putting the numbers in, but you definitely enjoy and want to be the one looking at the numbers to make decisions.
Because that is actually what makes for less stress is when I look at those numbers. Yeah. It's like you can feel like you didn't make money one month, and it's like, I look at the numbers and it's like, man, like we had a rough month. Seems like we should have, and then I look at them and it's like, hey, it wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
Well, we had a lot of those conversations where it's like, I feel like everything's falling apart, and then we pull the numbers open and go, hey, wait a minute. This month is actually better than the same month you had the year before. Yeah, you're stressed out, but we did still manage to hit, after loan payments, everything else, 3 or 4% net profit, where the month before, we didn't make anything. And you're able to actually stabilize the emotions because you can look at the facts and not just the gut response.
Yeah. And you talk about emotions, like I can look at the numbers now and I can say, oh yeah, I think as business owners, we get involved with so many people and so much stuff. We get an angry customer, we get somebody yelling at us, and then we get that all mixed up in there thinking, hey, everything's going sideways on us, when really, like, we need to look at those numbers and forget about all this other noise, and then we actually know what's happening. Because all this other
scoreboard, right?
Yeah, all this other noise sometimes makes us stressed out, and we think it's our business going backwards.
You're making me think of an example that I think could be a good lesson for everybody. So Mick, question for you. Your payroll, do you pay bi-weekly? Like, do you pay every 2 weeks, or do you pay twice a month, or do you pay once a month?
We do 2 weeks, every 2 weeks.
Okay.
We do, actually, correct that. We pay twice a month. We pay on the 15th and the 30th, the last. Yeah.
Okay. So that'd be different. Okay. So the example I'm about to give won't be happening to you, but something you said a minute ago made me think of this as an example. So again, this doesn't apply to you, but it could apply to a lot of people listening to this, is if you paid every 2 weeks, then what can happen is once every so many months, you make less profit because your payroll's higher, because you got that extra payroll, right? So, and a lot of people just don't understand that. So I guess the point is, one, listening to your story, if that was happening, by looking at the numbers, the anxiety would drop, the stress would drop, because you realize, oh, I didn't make as much profit that month because I had an extra payroll. But then that would lead to, and part of this whole conversation today around operational layout is to make better decisions. That would lead to a decision of, well, wait a minute, if I'm just making kind of the expected profit every month, and then once every 3 months or whatever, I got an extra payroll, I make less profit, then I need to figure out a way in those other months to compensate for that, so it actually comes to the average I'm looking for. So then that leads to other kinds of decisions, right? Like, it's not okay to make money, then lose money because you had an extra payroll. It'd be, okay, how do I make more money in the other months to offset the month I lost money with the extra payrolls? I think that's part of what we're talking about today, is those kinds of decisions and conversations can come from what you're saying, the habit of looking at the numbers and knowing it and understanding what's going on, troubleshoot it. So,
well, cool. There's a relevance there in the fact that I think when we broke out your numbers too, you're not a 12-month business. Like, you're in your slow period right now. You're in your kind of, let's build up some inventory and let's get ready for the busy season type year, which means that when we have those busier months, you have to be aware of what's happening in your slow months to prepare for it. You don't just spend yourself in the bliss time. You're more mentally set up to know what's coming down the pipe, and when it slows down, you're not worried about it. Now, the relationship you have with Premier allows you to continue to build most of the season, but we're slower now than we would be, let's say, in the middle of June, July, or August.
Certainly with sales. I mean, our shop is busy, but sales is a big part of our business. So absolutely, we are slower.
Cool. Before the program, what were your thoughts on actually ever being able to retire? And now that you're kind of established what you've established, you see kind of where the business is going, have those opinions changed? Are you more hopeful about eventually handing this off one day?
I would, yeah, like I don't know that I dwell on that a lot. Looking back, absolutely. I mean, this business is going to be more valuable with this because we know where we're going. And like Dennis has always told me, like a business is not worth anything if I'm going to be working here 24 hours a day to try to keep this operation running. And yes, I think that it's going to be a lot more valuable for me to sell down the road if that's what I want to do, or hand it off to, just because we're trying to have a business where we actually have time for ourselves as well. I mean, somebody else would be interested in something like that versus what I have been doing in the past.
So in other words, if I were to say that back to you, with the changes you and Dennis have been able to make in the last 2 years, which are probably structural changes, which allows maybe the team to be more independent, the company's less reliant on you per se, but also sounds like the company's more profitable. You feel like now the company's actually more valuable. And whether that gets passed on to another family member or whether you sell it or whatever that may look like. And even for someone thinking about passing their business on to a family member, don't you want to know you're passing a business on where your kids or whoever you're going to pass it on to is going to succeed?
Exactly.
Like,
Well, you want that. I mean, that's what you do. That's what you do this for. Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Like instead of saying, hey, I slugged it out and worked hard and now it's your disaster to deal with. Like, oh, thanks, Dad.
Oh, yeah. It's
That's a big deal though.
Oh, it is a big deal. Yeah. And you know, it's common, like whether or not a guy likes it or not. Like I found out by falling down on the skates there that I wasn't 20 anymore. It's like, it's common. Yeah, I'm more relaxed thinking of that part of life now than I would have been like a few years ago for sure. And I think it's only going to get better.
I think
I
think maybe what business owners, a little lesson from this could be, from what I see and experience, the closer a business owner gets to that age, the more it becomes on their radar. Like when they're in their 30s and 40s, generally they're not thinking about it, but there's probably a certain age and everybody's different, but when you hit a certain age, all of a sudden it's on your radar because your friends are talking about it, right? Your friends are retiring and thinking about it and whatever. And now it's like, whoa, this is a thing. The sooner people think about that, the more likely they are to have a good situation when the time comes.
Absolutely. And I think we're setting ourselves up for that. I mean, I don't think we're there yet, but I think we're working on it. Yeah. Not that we've had exact conversations on that, but I think we're getting there. For sure.
Well, it's easier to have, and as we're starting to systemize your business, and you're able to take some more time off and everything else too, the conversation does change because now you're not giving up this stressful thing you hope your son might be able to do something with. Now you're looking at it going, maybe I can continue running this thing for another 10 years because I don't have to beat up my body for it. I know what's going on, and I can be more of the conductor and less of the instrument player and control its outcome.
Yeah. So Mick, Dennis and I sometimes will bump into business owners who might like to hear about what we're doing from somebody else or however they find out about us. And they're like, okay, I'll try this for a month. And then, that'll probably give me what I need, that home run I need, or that blue pill, or whatever analogy you want to use. And then everything's going to be great. What's your opinion of that? What's been your experience? What would you say to them in their best interest? I'm not saying like, hey, can you please tell everybody how to sell us? I'm saying in their best interest, what would you say to them if you're being honest with them?
Well, I got thoughts on it for sure. I think, like for me, Dennis is more than numbers anymore after 2 years. And I have my stress points, and he knows, he says he sees me less stressful. He sees me sometimes stressed out now yet too. And I lean on him to help me through those times now, even though we're not just numbers. We are like, I'm stressed out because this happened. And he says, hey, let's talk about that for a while. And I lean on him. I had somebody ask me that question not too long ago. How long are you going to be with Dennis? I said, forever, as far as I know. Yeah, because I lean on him. He knows my numbers. Dennis knows my numbers inside out. And that was one of the toughest things for me to give up and just say, hey, look at my numbers. And Dennis knows them. He knows exactly how much money I spend where. And so I can confide in him now when I have any kind of stress of any kind. And it might not be number stress. It might just be, hey, I'm having trouble with this one employee or something. And he walks me through this. So I honestly don't think I can run my business anymore without Dennis.
And
Sorry.
so, and
Dennis.
that's
I had my earplugs in. Sorry, what was that?
it's a very interesting perspective for people to
Yeah.
hear. And then I guess another question would be, and answer it honestly, would you be as profitable today if you had just signed up for 1 or 2 months and stopped?
No, I mean,
And
course I
give a
would.
quick and why is that, you think?
well, because it's like that same thing. We keep going back. Like we do look at numbers, and we keep looking at those numbers, and that number keeps bugging you. And it's not going to bug you the first month. It's going to bug you. Like, why is that number like that? And like, why are we paying that kind of money for that? Or why are we spending this money here? And it's a long-term thing, and like you just keep looking at those numbers, and they're going to start bugging you if they're wrong. Like if
And with the intention, obviously with the intention of improving the number. Like, so you may have improved a number once. That's not it. You want to improve the number again, right? Like sports, right? If you're a baseball player or whatever it is, and your batting average is whatever, you don't stop there. You want to improve the number. Like a competitive athlete should always want to improve their numbers. So a business owner should be the same. And there's so many numbers to look at.
We got 4 forklifts or some skid steers forklifts and all that kind of stuff. And we have them all broke down in what we spend on each one of them now. And we're finding out that one of those machines is costing us twice as much in repairs as what the other one. Well, you can't find that out. You can't find that out in
month
6 months. Yeah, no.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great example, actually. That's a really good example.
I think the reason why people ask a question of, can I do it for 1 month and then quit? It's a trust factor, right? Nobody wants to commit to something for more than 30 days that might not work. And I think the promise I made to you was, in the first 30 days, you're going to learn more about your numbers. We're going to understand where it sits. We're going to start breaking things down. And if at the end of the 30 days, you feel like I'm not teaching you anything, there's nothing to learn, there's nothing to see, I'll give you your money back. Just walk away. We'll stay friends. And then I give the open invitation of stick as long as you want to, but trust me for at least a year. And I think that helped you make those decisions, because it's like, okay, well, I can quit anytime. And it gave you the permission to kind of dig deep, because I know if we would have said, fix this in 30 days and we didn't focus on your time, that was your main thing, you probably would have been like, this doesn't make any sense for me. I don't even know why I'm here anymore. Let's go. But then as you gave yourself the permission to kind of break things down, for you, the value just keeps going up, because my perspective of what you're saying is, I have somebody else who's not emotionally involved in this the way that I am, that can give me a perspective I don't see, to make sure that I'm not running into any walls or blindly running off of a cliff in excitement, because my emotions are so heavily invested. And of course, I've got your back. Like, if you got confrontations, I've got your back, man, because we're in this together. It's not just you go do it by yourself.
No, and I feel that. I feel that from you. And that, I had a good friend of mine here stopped in. He looks after our furnaces. He installed them for us. And he says, Mick, he says, I'm thinking about expanding my business. And he says, but I don't know. And then I told him what we were doing, like with Dennis and all that kind of stuff. We actually had a couple men here, a couple business guys here. And one guy does use a consultant, and one guy to some kind, I don't know what. And this guy was saying, at what point in time do you do that? Like, I'm just a one-man show now with a part-time employee. And it's like, and I want to expand, but when? Like, when do I hire a Dennis? And I says, today. So that's when you got to do it. Yeah. And
yesterday.
Yeah, or yesterday, but I says today. I says, you don't wait till you got lots of employees. I said, do it today. Like, he says, really? Yeah. And I says, that absolutely. So that was a conversation we had like in the last 2 weeks. So that's kind of interesting. Yeah. I'm pretty passionate about this program that you guys got, and I really like it. I talked to lots of people about it.
Okay, so we have a couple of questions from our producer, just so the listener can kind of get to know us a little bit. I'll ask them one at a time. Who is the most influential person in your life? Mick.
My wife.
It's a great answer.
I always tell her I wouldn't be here without her. So yeah.
That's cool. You got to tell her to watch this now, because you'll get some extra bonus points for that.
Oh, she already knows. She already knows.
And actually, you should tell her to get all her friends and family to watch this, because then you'll get huge bonus points with her circle of influence.
Oh, she owns
They'll be like, oh, Mick's the best.
She owns half the business. Mostly because she stands by me on everything. She asked me even today what time the podcast was. I says, why does it matter to you? And she says, because I care. And she says, I just want to think about what's happening when you're out there. Yep. So that's what she does for that. That's what she stands behind me on every business decision. So it's huge for me.
That's cool. Dennis, how about you?
I'm not allowed to give any other answer than what Mick gave. It's also
Especially
my
now.
wife.
Thanks, Mick.
Because she's also going to be listening to this, and I love you, honey. Thank you for
Just
always
like
being there.
this. Scratch out the answer. New answer. My wife.
So that's what I'm going with too.
Okay.
Greg, who's the most influential person in your life?
That's awesome. I'm going to say my dad, because from a young age, just super quick, he taught me how to earn what you want in life. He taught me kind of how to view people, what's important in life, taught me how to be competitive. That's for sure. He's a pro athlete. And then I'm going to do a little quick side one that nobody's going to expect. Another one is one of our 3 dogs. One of our 3 dogs is the most absolute focused, competitive creature I've ever seen in my life. She is freaking like, whoa. I'm in awe of her every day. Kind of cool. She's laser focused. Okay, second question. Mick, I'll go to you first. Well, actually, I don't know if I should go to Mick first because this is make us look bad. Mick, we're not even going to ask you a question.
You're
not allowed to
I might
answer.
remain silent this time.
Okay, Mick,
Yeah.
if you could get a dream house tomorrow, what would it look like? Oh,
Premier
don't say
shed.
it. Yeah,
premier shed.
exactly. Here we go again.
I will also say a premier shed because
It's like, if you get your dream house, see? We just finished renovations on our house like 2 days before Christmas, so I got my dream house, I guess. I don't know. No, it's not, but
That's cool.
yeah, no.
That's cool.
Yeah.
It's good.
No.
Dennis, how about you?
if I could go back and do it again, I would have probably taken my dad up on his offer to buy the farm.
Oh.
Not because I would have actually used the farm for a farm, but that would have been that's really my only access at the time to have bought myself a quarter section of land in a nice location with great running water, with everything. Like, it's really hard to find a place in an acreage that's got really good water, really good visibility, really good everything. And where we were on the farm was perfect. I would have taken him up on the offer. I probably would have bought the farm. Not like bought the farm, but like ran and operated and not died, but like bought the farm and then probably built a nice house on there for the family and have them in that environment where living in town isn't the same as when I grew up.
You know, it's
Yeah,
funny
cool.
because at 21, my dad offered me the dairy farm. And how many times have I regretted that?
Yeah.
I'm actually going to copy both your answers. I think, like Mick, we renovated our house and I like honestly love, I just every single day I appreciate the place I live in. I love it. That being said, to Dennis's point, I think if I could wave a magic wand, I'd probably want 40 or 80 acres or something, somewhere with a big body of water or river or something in it where I can, have all that fun stuff out there. That'd be cool. Cool. Thank you, Mick. Super appreciate it. I think our listeners will have learned a few things today. It's a good story and we appreciate you sharing it.
Hey, I appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
2026 is going to be good. Looking forward to it.
We'll have some more fun times.
Yep. 100%.
You're gonna come out for barbecue?
Oh, if you invite me, of course.
Thanks for listening to the More Profit, Less Stress podcast. If you liked what you heard, be sure to subscribe or follow on your favorite podcast platform and leave a comment or review if you're feeling generous. To learn more about us and what we do, check out our website. Until next time, take care.